Howdy guys, and welcome to a segment of Decision 22 where we sit down with young voters and to find out, their take on issues here on Guam. Welcome. We want to thank Coffee Stop for having us here today.
And it's Victorious Falan with One Micronesia, and I'm Thomas with Pacific Matters for this special episode, like Vic said, of Decision 2022. And now we're joined with two young Guam voters, Stephanie Lorenzo and Farron Tyrone. And so, Stephanie, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your ties to Guam.
Thank you. So my name is Stephanie Lorenzo. I'm the Executive Director of Family Law and Rights, and I'm also the Speaker of the Guam Youth Congress.
All right, and Farron?
I'm a social media dude. I have an Instagram account called The Guam Guy. I also have a podcast, very vainly called The Guam Guy Show Podcast. I think it is all those words. I do a bunch of environmental things and extreme cleanups and so on.
All right, and so I know there are issues you care about all year round. This year just happens to be an election year. And Stephanie, we'll start with you again. What issues matter to you the most this election?
So for me, it's Guam's accessibility to reproductive health care. A part of Fam Rights, we advocate for accurate, fact-based, and data-driven sexual education curriculum in all of our schools. We advocate for accessible menstrual hygiene products, and we advocate for all reproductive medical procedures to include abortions.
And Farron?
I don't want to say it necessarily matters to me the most, but it's one of the least spoken about issues, I would say, and it is, caring for our environment and looking at incumbents and potential new senators and politicians getting into the field and seeing who has to say about environmental matters.
All right, Farron, just sticking with you first. Are there any candidates? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for in the candidates who are running? And are there any particular races that you're following closely? How do you approach that?
Honestly, if any candidate says anything about the environment, that anything of substance, where it shows it's not just like a two-sentence thing they'll just kind of throw out, not a whole, this is a lot of things, but it's very important, something that shows that they put any thought into it, that already is like a plus mark in my book, just because, again, it's one of these issues that's just not talked about at any length, unfortunately. That said, I don't want to say it's the most important or most pressing thing. There's more urgent things, for our island and for our people, but just to show that it's at least on their radar and that there's some sincerity and there's some thought that's put into it. I could give some specifics, but maybe we'll pass it back.
All right, and but in terms of any particular races, are you following any of them? Or
I am following all of them. I'm not going to comment on any particular candidates. I'm going to stay on the issues. I want to believe that some candidates and just some incumbents, for example, if I disagreed with them vehemently on particular issues, I'd like to think we'd be able to work together on environmental ones.
And Stephanie, for you, any particular issues or candidates?
So for me, the particular issue that I'm looking for in these candidates is what is their stance on Guahan's accessibility to reproductive health care. I want to look at their platforms to see really what their stance is, and that if legislation was to happen and if they were to be elected, will they introduce legislation that supports and reforms and advances a person who's able to get pregnant? Will they advance their reproductive rights, or have more accessible reproductive health care? I also want to kind of like what you said earlier, they have a few platforms that they're looking at, so more on the diversity and inclusivity. I know that some candidates are really prioritizing their own platform, which is okay, it's fine, but at the end of the day, if they are elected, I want to be able to see and be confident in my vote that they are willing to work across the board, no matter the party, no matter the topic.
And is it a matter of candidates for you, or also party, or what are you looking at?
So for me, it's just really across the board. I'm a strong Democrat. In terms of the candidacy and what races I'm following closely, I'm personally following the gubernatorial race. For me, my godzu, as we call it, is the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration. And just from a young person's perspective and a young professional, I've seen them invest not only in the teachers, but in the law enforcement community. I've seen them invest in also in our students too. I don't know if you guys have seen, but we had over 12,000 students in the Guam Summer Youth Employment Program. So with that administration, they were able to give one, the kids the institutional knowledge just by further experience, and then pay them. Because if I was to go, for example, right, if one of those kids, one of those students wanted to pursue like a job or a career in that field, you have to go to school. And majority of the times, those internships, you have to pay for it because it's a part of your degree. But they were able to get that experience, be like in the department, in the agencies for free, and they got paid too. So that's something that I've seen them really invest back into our community.
Hi guys, and we're back. It's Decision 22, and we're teaming up. It's One Micronesia teaming up with Pacific Matters to find out, what the younger voters think about different issues. And for now, I guess we're going to start tackling this next one, which is climate change, which is it's affecting the whole world, but especially our tiny island. So, what do you guys think about that?
Right, and so climate change and even larger, just the environment generally. Farron, we'll start with you. The Guam guy, it's what you're known for, literally delving into the issues here in Guam's water. So what's important to know about the environment when it comes to this year and moving forward?
It's not just this year, it's every year going forward and it's every year going backward. So like you're saying, I literally dive for trash. My friends and I, Will, Nate, and Lonnie Sablan, they've organized, I think, 5 annual Mauricio Pier project underwater cleanups, and they started out when they were 19 years old. It's actually a really beautiful thing, and I've been with them from the start, just volunteering, helping however I can. And also we go rappelling off of Oka Point cliff, like with rock climbing gear full on, and getting trash out of there. And I was talking with Senator Clint Rigel about this before, and we have a lot of this trash all around the island, and so we have a major littering problem. And some of the things we're noticing is, as we continue to put in these efforts, we are making really big, visible differences. So I'm really proud of my friends, my team, that we keep going back and we can actually see the changes happen in front of our eyes. And we're noticing that, a lot of the trash we get is quite old. So our efforts, what we're doing and the cleaning up of the trash, some of this trash is so old it predates any kind of conservation, any kind of recycling messages or anything like that. And so I just want to say that their progress is absolutely possible, and it just takes some people to try and make a difference. And that said, littering is an issue, dumping is another big issue, and so I'll just be especially looking at, I know there's currently an initiative right now to make trash pickup free again. And it comes out of taxes, of course, but functionally it's free, right? You don't have to write a check anywhere. And anyone who puts that through will have a lot of big check marks in my book, just to relieve that burden off of our people, and make it so that everybody can get trash. Like when I was growing up, it wasn't a thought. We had our 32-gallon or whatever it was size trash cans out in front, and we had a little cage for it to keep the animals out, and so they used to come and pick it up every week. So whoever makes that happen again, I will love them till the day I die. Other big issues, we have wildfires. We have, I think, hundreds of wildfires every year. Every wildfire is caused by a person, and there's not been a single prosecution. It's literally arson. It is literally arson, and no one is, to my knowledge, has ever been arrested for it or brought to trial to pay for the crime. That said, of course, if that people feel like that's part of their culture, I can kind of understand that, but it's something we got to get over. Respect is also a big part of our culture, and we shouldn't be respecting each other. We shouldn't be burning each other's backyards. If you just drive around, I think you've probably seen this from back in your old days. There's just some derelict sailboats stuck up on the reef. How is that allowed to happen? And they're stuck on there for years. I guess I could go on and on. But so that's why I'm just saying, I guess a fairly low bar. Like, just show me any candidate or incumbent, show me really anything of substance that I might be able to even talk about in my own personal capacity.
And before going to Stephanie, I guess what is the importance of documenting it and sharing it like you do? What are you hoping people do based on your videos and your experiences?
I'm just hoping people will care. So I fully understand. I had a hard early adult life. I used to ride a bicycle around the island because I couldn't afford a car. Guam on the spot didn't exist back then, and so so no one would approve me for a loan. And so I remember survival, and so I'm not asking it for the environment to be anyone's number one cause. I'm just asking for it to be on the list. So I just hope that people put it on the list of their concerns, and even if it's down the line behind survival, I just hope people put it on their list, and candidates and incumbents put it on their list, and that everybody just should make some effort. And just me and some random friends, we've made some visible differences in a couple spots around the island, and multiply that by everybody. That would be amazing.
And Stephanie, where is it on your list? What's on your list?
Did it just get a little higher?
For sure. And so for me, and the topic of climate change, I think that it's not the big differences. It's the small, everyday swaps that are going to help move us forward and help give us progress. I mean, we see nowadays we have Numa Loa refineries, so we have younger people recognizing the importance of caring for our environment. And just again, those little everyday swaps, they're going to, like you said, multiply that by everyone on this island. We're going to see a drastic difference.
All right, great. Farron, did you want to add anything in closing to this?
I'll be looking forward to seeing the results of bills. I think it's 162 and 165. Senator Sabina Perez and Speaker Therese Terlahi put those out in response to the Marble Cave disaster. One of those is to remove the cap on the maximum fines that Guam EPA can assess, and then the other one is to allow EPA to use those monies to hire enough people and for their own lawyer fees to actually protect us and enforce environmental protection on the island. So I don't know if those. I tried to look it up and see if there was any movement on that. I haven't seen anything yet, and so that's something I'll be looking for, and something everybody should be paying attention to, because everyone universally was angry that the maximum fine assessed was 125,000, even though it was assessed to be something like 14 million. And so hopefully people will follow up with that and try to see it to fruition.
Hopefully, guys, and we're back. It's Decision 22 and a special edition. It's One Micronesia teaming up with Pacific Matters. Just sit down with friends and just find out, what their take on with this election and the issue, like I said, what surrounds it. Guys, let's talk about it. What have you guys heard out there from your friends and family about, issues and this upcoming elections, the candidates themselves and stuff like that?
So having young people be active in politics or being interested in voting is really such a niche group. Nowadays, we see younger people trying to vote with their parents or vote the way that their parents do. They kind of follow the line of, what their families kind of, and also like what their parties are too. So for me, I want to see more young people more motivated to get out there and to learn more information about the candidates, and also for the candidates to provide their platforms on a more accessible basis. I know that there is social media, there is like the print ads, and there's like the media ads as well, but kind of just being more out in the community. We only really see them like for waving, which is effective enough to get the logo and the colors in our heads, but really like getting to know our candidates. I know it kind of stopped because of the pandemic, but those forums from the Guam Medical Association, from the University of Guam, PSSA, those forums are opportunities for the community, and especially for young people, to find out, well, what candidates are we going to support in this election because our values and our issues kind of align,
And just to follow up on the original, one of the issues that you're passionate about with the reproductive rights, is it fair to say that that hot button issue reinvigorated a younger voter base in Guam?
Yes, absolutely. So with the introduction of Bill 291, I want to say that it really did awaken the sleeping dragon, because we had people from Choice, and they're kind of like the aunties, the more professional, but then we had family on rights. And those two groups combined were able to mobilize over 150 people. We had 3 protests altogether. I want to say that there was maybe 850 testimonies in opposition for Bill 291. So it does show in the community that, you know, we, as a whole, as an island community, we respect a person's right to choose, and we want to be able to safeguard that.
And so would you say that you're trying to sustain that momentum, or
Absolutely, absolutely. So Family Law and Rights, right now we're in the process of becoming an NPO, but we really are committed to advancing Guam's access to reproductive health care. We're trying to identify individuals from off island, because we do know that we have an OBGYN and just women's health care, OBGYN shortage, right? So we're trying to entice them to come here to practice and, you know, and to be able to have and to perform this medical procedure, which is, you know, abortions.
And Farron, what are you hearing in your circle?
You know, it's kind of funny now, as you pointed out, like on social media, it's mostly the same people just going at each other's throats. I'm just seeing a lot of ugliness. I don't know if this is unusual or normal. Maybe I'm paying attention more now, or just tuned into the field more now, but I'm seeing a lot of ugliness. And it makes me sad. Like I didn't know we were capable of this. So maybe I'm just naive or something. But I'm just looking around and seeing a lot of negativity. A lot of people hurling stuff at each other. A lot of, let's say, posing. People will like with the abortion issue or reproductive rights issue, however it's want to be phrased, pro-choice, pro-life, saying let's have a good faith discussion. And then they throw out the phrase like murdering babies. Well, that's not a good faith. That's not a good faith discussion. And so it's a very debatable issue. I am pro-choice myself, and I can see merits to both sides. But that said, it does seem to be the bigger, more pressing issue of this election is exactly this women's rights or human rights issue. And yeah, I would just wish we could be more civil in our discussion. Not even the candidates, just us, like how we talk to each other. And you know, and just understand everybody has opinions, and understand that your candidate may not win, and we're still gonna have to work with each other. We'll have to fight each other for the next 2 years or 4 years, depending on which race we're talking about, and just recognize that we're still gonna be one island after this.
And Stephanie, if we could just go back to your original point about voting along family lines, if you're comfortable answering, you know, I've been voting in Rhoda since then. I don't vote here, full disclosure, but I do, you know, remember those family visits that they would make, and they would assume if you're a household of 5 and you visited that household, then you've got 5 votes, right? But do you think that conversation is changing within families?
No, absolutely not. I think we definitely, you know, there has been a shift, there has been a change, because I see a lot of my friends who typically are one party, but because they did their own research, because they have their own personal values and beliefs, they're going to candidates on the opposite end of the aisle, because they find that they're candidates that have the same values, that they align there. So it's really interesting to see, honestly, and it really does show the intergenerational and how politics kind of plays into that.
Right. Did anyone else have anything to add about getting the younger adult vote out?
Ooh. I think there's a lot of young adults, like even myself before. I've only recently started tuning in. Honestly, is just that ugliness and just that division. Bear it, get through it, learn about the issues, learn about the candidates, because they write the laws that dictate our lives. So it's more important than presidential elections, arguably. This is local politicians, the local government sphere is what is in control of our local, our island environment, both literal and figurative, with the way our businesses are run and the way we live our lives, all kinds of matters. Yeah, just get involved as much as it sucks. Get involved.
Yeah. I think for me, this is only going to be my 3rd election that I vote in, right? So as a young person and as a young professional, we kind of tend to kind of second guess ourselves. And so we kind of are a little bit scared to go into the polls because we're not familiar with the process. I will have to commend the Guam Election Commission. They try to do their best in making it as accessible as possible, but it's really up to the candidates. It's up to the candidates to inspire the voters, inspire the young people to get out, to put a vote and a trust in them, so that way to produce legislation that, aligns their values and beliefs,
Today, guys, Decision 22 continues here, collaboration between One Micronesia and Pacific Matters, talking to young voters about issues and this upcoming election.
Right, so we've neared the end of our conversation, believe it or not, and I just wanted to ask both of you what your advice to others trying to decide who to vote for, and maybe not necessarily who to vote for, but even, like we spoke in the last segment, to vote in the first place. Either of you want to pick us off here?
Yeah, my advice is don't just listen to what the candidates and the incumbents say on their own social medias. Listen to what the news articles have been currently and in the past, see what their record is like, and it's all out there. It's all online. You can see all of that. So don't just listen to a candidate's own social media. Listen to what your friends and family, people you agree with, people you don't agree with. Listen, just try to get all of that feedback, because a lot of the research is hard to do. Like myself, I've not researched every single candidate. I'm going to talk to a bunch of friends and colleagues I respect and trust to just kind of see where they're at and see who they like, who they don't like, and why. And that will be a big part of forming my decisions, is like, who are the people that I trust who do their research, who are they invested in, and who do they believe is invested back in Guam. And that'll be mostly how I decide who I vote for. And yeah, but most importantly, do shop around for answers. Don't just listen to one particular candidate's social media feed, because it's going to be that's obviously the most biased way you can go.
Absolutely. So for me, for the young people, I just want to say that, your vote is your voice. And as cliche as it sounds, it is more important now more than ever to go out to the polls and cast your vote, because you may think that, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna just deal with whoever's in place, but that's not it. Because like you said earlier, the public servants that we elect, they're gonna be influencing the legislation and the policy and just our community for the next 4 or 2 years. And so we want to ensure that as a young person, if you want these topics that you're passionate about to be heard and to be addressed, you need to go out and vote for these candidates. And like you said earlier, don't shop around, do your research. Now more than ever, we actually have to not look at just the social media page. We need to meet them in public. They're public people. We see their billboards everywhere. So if you see them at like Kmart, just go hi. If you have a few minutes, and for the most part, they're really like happy to talk to you about these issues. So yeah.
And I figured we'd close with talking about why you both personally care about the issues at hand, and hopefully sharing why you care more, and invite others to care too about something that might get them to vote. So Stephanie, we'll start with you. Why is the time now? Why is it more important than ever, just like you said?
Yeah, so it's, as a young person, we're going to be going to our own chosen career fields, and we want to ensure that the candidates that we put in place are going to help not only the career field grow, but help you grow as a person too. I mean, there's a lot of programs that helped our community kind of make ends meet throughout the pandemic, and so it's really important that we, say what we think our community needs to better ourselves, and then just kind of go from there.
And Farron, closing words from you about why people should care about issues?
So, because it's our island and it's our lives, so it's like, there's politicians, our elected leaders, they write the laws and enforce the laws that we function in as a society and as individuals. And It's easy to complain. It's so easy to complain. I have so many complaints myself, but complaining doesn't really do anything. You have to participate in the process. You have to vote if you want to have any chance of fixing whatever your complaints are about, and you just got to participate in the process.
All right, there you heard it. We want to thank Coffee Slut so much for hosting this conversation. Thank you to Farron and Stephanie for your time. And you heard it from them. Go out and vote. It's been Vic and Tomas with One Micronesia and Pacific Matters. This is Decision 2022. See you next time.